Good afternoon. Please could you tell me your name, job title and company name?
I'm Rob Chilcott. I'm the Learning and Development Manager for Claims Consortium Group.
And Claims Consortium Group operates in the insurance field. So why is insurance such an important financial service?
Well, some insurances are mandatory. So things such as car insurance, buildings insurance and life insurance if you have a mortgage. It helps us to manage our attitude towards risk. As long as risk exists, insurance will exist. We've worked hard for the things that we have in our lives, and insurance means we can always be put back in the same position if anything was to happen to us or happen to them. So as I say, as long as bad things happen and an attitude to risk exists, insurance will always be an important factor.
So what career opportunities would there be within the insurance industry?
Like most industries, it's quite wide and varied in terms of there are companies who will deal, such as we do, with insurance claims handling. There are sales aspects to insurance, and there are brokerage aspects. You can underwrite insurance. You can look at actuarial services in terms of calculating the probabilities of risks. You can go into more weird and wonderful worlds. Every industry has got different risks attached to it, and therefore insurances. You can insure footballers' legs or chocolate chasers' tongues, and whatever exists is a risk to it somewhere. So be it in media, be it in sales, be it in design, that there's opportunities in the industry, as there are in most fields, throughout every single company that exists.
What would you say is most enjoyable in your field of work?
For what we do, it's most enjoyable to help customers get back to the life they wanted. So we deal primarily with buildings insurance and buildings claims. So we call it our reset to zero factor. So no matter how bad your day has been, you get to go home, or stay home as we are tonight, but you get to go home and have a glass of wine, have a nice meal, do things you do that help you unwind and relax and have a good night's sleep. Imagine if you couldn't do those things. Imagine if your home was in a situation from a flood or a storm damage claim where you couldn't cook your own meal, you couldn't sleep in your own bed. Being able to put customers back in a position where they can carry on with their lives is very rewarding.
Excellent, thank you. And given that environment of things happening to people, what is most challenging in the job?
Perception of the industry is always a challenge. People see the insurance industry as being quite a dry and boring one, and not everybody understands it to the same level. We do with some insurances, but not with others. So if we took a car insurance, if you have a flat tire, you wouldn't phone your insurance company, you'd replace it. But in other walks of life, we sort of say, I've insured my house, there's something wrong with my house, therefore my insurance should pay for it. We don't often understand it in the same way. So perception of the industry is huge and often is a challenge for us to overcome. Second of all, will be timescales from our point of view, especially at certain times of year. So if we're having claims in November, December, and people want their house ready for Christmas, or they've got family coming around, that can be a challenge to try and hit at peak times some of the work we need to manage for our customers.
Thank you. And what types of skills or attributes is the Claims Consortium Group seeking in its team members?
When we recruit through what we call assessment centres. So we're not so much looking for what anybody knows, because we can tell you that. We can tell you everything there is to know about insurance, everything there is to know about building a property and maintaining a property and repairing one. We can tell you the history of the company. What we can't train as easily is you, the individuals. So we look for personalities. Customer service is huge for us. So whether they're internal or external customers, the ability to communicate, empathise, and actually deal with customers on a either face-to-face basis or over telephone or over written communications, those things are really important to us, how you work as a team. So when we assess, we give groups of potential candidates tasks to do and watch you do them. And from that, we learn quite a lot about you. We're very values-based, we're very values-driven. Our 4 key values underpin everything that we do. So we're looking for the values that an individual holds in terms of how they're looking to be grown and developed. Engagement's a really big factor for us. Work should be a place that is fun. It should bring out the best in you, and a place that helps you grow and develop. So you have to want to be grown and developed to apply for it, essentially. So customer service, engagement, all those things we're looking for, and that's in the core of who somebody is, more so than what they know.
Thank you. So with that in mind, finally, could you set a practical task someone could try at home that would relate to your work?
Risks are everywhere. So in terms of if we're dealing with the situation we're dealing with right now with the pandemic, we're seeing a huge variance in people's attitude towards risk between, do I send my children back to school or do I not send my children back to school? How often do I wash my hands? Am I happy going out and mixing with people, or should I stay in? All of those things are driven by the consequence of something happening. Around the house, you could look for trip hazards. Are there wires on the floor that could fall over? If I cook and put a saucepan in the oven, do I leave the hand light so that people might hit the handle and the water might fall off? If I have a mobile phone, do I have mobile phone insurance? If I drop it and smash it, what would happen? Am I happy running the risk that I have to replace it, or do I want to know that if anything happens to it, I can get another one back on my insurance? So essentially, we're making these decisions all the time, every single day. So if you had a 10-minute car journey to get to where you wanted to get to, would you leave 10 minutes before you had to be there, or would you give yourself a little bit more time in case there's traffic? That's mitigation of risk. Mitigation means I will try and stop something from happening, or if it does happen, I will still be in the position I want to be in at the other end of it. So all the time, whether we know it or not, most often people don't know what their attitude to risk is, but when you push them on, do you have breakdown insurance on your car? No. You can start understanding that attitude towards risk. So the best advice is to look for risk, and you'll see it because we're encountering it every single day of our lives. Sometimes we don't know. Do you look before you cross the road? So there are things we can do to understand what risks we face, what risks are, and what our attitude towards risk will be. But look for risk, and then you'll find a way of mitigating it or a way of dealing with it.
Thank you, Rob.